here. Okay, first steps in Copilot. So you're going to see in these downloads, and again, if you're just coming in, I'll throw that link in the chat just one more time here. You're welcome to pass this around. I'll keep this link up. You can share it, do what you want with it. Okay, we're going to step over to these slides here, and we'll set the stage and try to get into Excel and Copilot as quickly as possible. You're going to see that I tend to approach Copilot and AI maybe a little bit through the back door, a little differently than some other people might. I really want to help you separate the fact from the fiction here when it comes to what Copilot and AI can do for us, and give you a plan for how to make the most of Copilot in Excel and how to make the most of Copilot for Excel more generally. We'll talk about that distinction in a second. So again, my name is George Mound. I'm a data analytics consultant and trainer from Cleveland, Ohio, the author of a couple of books with O'Reilly Media. If you haven't read these, I would definitely encourage you to do so, because both of these are going to put you in a really good position to make the most of Copilot and AI. Like most technologies, it's not just about kind of jumping into the shiniest new tool and having it solve all of your problems. It's really about, leveraging that foundational material, standing on the shoulder of giants, as it were. And we'll talk about what some of those preliminary tools are in Excel that you should know before you even try to get anywhere with Copilot and with AI. It's not a magic pill. A lot of people think it is. People ask it, can Copilot do X, Y, and Z? The best answer for that is I don't know. You go and try it and find out. You're probably going to get better results, though, if you follow some of the steps that we're going to talk about. So it's a good blend of like trial and error, but also understanding those foundations. And I hope we're really going to cut through the myth and get into some of those foundations today that are going to be pretty timeless no matter what tool you use. So getting the best results, like we said, with Copilot and Excel, we are going to look at some use cases. We're going to talk briefly about Copilot and Excel versus Copilot 365. And then if there's time permitting, we're going to look at the advanced analysis with Python. That's the newer tool. It is more advanced, as the name implies. There's a data set we're going to primarily be working on. Okay, so if you head over to this wholesale customers data set, those of you who have read my book or attended other of these webinars, this might look like a familiar data set. I like it a lot because it just looks like a regular data set you'd find in the wild. It's from the UC Irvine Machine Learning Repository. It's a real world business data set. Okay. We're going to look at how can we get some results from Copilot with that. So I have the schedule to be about 40 minutes. If you do have any questions during that time, please do let me know. That time may fluctuate depending on the questions we get and so forth. But one thing I'm going to have you do, because I did keep this session pretty open-ended, because there are so many ways to use Copilot. It really depends on what you're looking to do with it. And it really goes in a lot of different directions skill-wise. So, those of you who have never used Excel before and you're just looking for help doing things like conditional formatting, adding calculated columns, formatting your table, and things like that, there are a lot of things you can do with Copilot there. Those of you who are a little bit more advanced, okay, and you want to get into data science and machine learning with Python and Excel, that's a whole other arena. And then, my inclination is that a lot of you are probably in the middle and you're good with writing basic formulas, you're good with basic conditional formatting, you're not really into like data science or predictive analytics. It's not exactly something that you need your day to day. What you probably need is help, troubleshooting your workflows, deciding what kind of chart is best to use, maybe debugging like a macro or M code or something like that. Now, unfortunately, those kind of like intermediate skill sets aren't really Copilot's forte right now. Okay. And we're going to look particularly, as I mentioned in the slides, if we get to it, this idea of Copilot for Excel versus Copilot for 365, those kinds of tasks where you're looking, and you're welcome to, put in the chat, what are you trying to get done with Copilot, right? Like, what brought you here? What do you want help with? If you're just here to explore, that's cool too. If something specific came to you and brought you here, let me know. And what I can try to do in the time that we have is try to point you to that right direction. So I'll look at those chats in a second here. The other thing I'm going to do here is this Copilot for Excel resource guide. If you could take a look at this as we get started here, and also if you could let me know in the chat what kind of rings your bell here, because as you're going to see, there's like so many different directions we can go in. rather than trying to make this a really structured presentation, try to keep it more informal, see what y'all are looking for. And then I have the resources, right? These are all links to my blog. You can check out my blog. If you want to walk through the examples together, just let me know. So again, if you're looking for the first steps, we'll do a little bit of that. I'm assuming a lot of you are past like basic formula and formatting functions and things like that. Okay. If you're looking for stuff like this, summarizing, maybe data profiling, we can do that. Debugging your formulas, debugging your macros, profiling your data, and then finally advanced analysis. I did a session on this a couple weeks ago. So if we don't get to that, you can look at those at the replay, or maybe if we have time, we'll get into that. But all of this really necessitates a fair amount of Excel knowledge. Even getting help with formulas and functions, I would say it would be better if you understood how tables work, if you understood how Power Query works, and some other topics there. So let me take a look, see what's going on in the chat here. Okay, we are recording, just so you know. And if anybody didn't get those resources, okay, that chat is blank. So I'm assuming you're all just like here for the ride. That's fine. All right. Let's open up wholesale customers then, and I'll just do my thing. And if you have questions, let me know. Okay. Yep. Question. Can I share the resources? I sure can. Okay. So that's in the chat. All right. So we're going to start with this wholesale customers data set. And this just looks like a regular business data set to me. Okay. How are we going to use this with Copilot? First thing I'm going to suggest is you don't necessarily have to make this a table, but I would definitely encourage you to make this a table first. This is a newer feature in Copilot that your data doesn't need to be in a table, but I would say put it in a table anyway. If you've never used a table before, let's go into that real quick here. So I'm going to head into my Insert tab. Okay, put your mouse anywhere in this data set. We're going to go to Insert. We're going to go to Table. We're going to insert a table. Okay, and my table has headers. Let's click OK. All right, so if you've never seen this before, just really quickly, let's go through this because it's no use trying to get help with your formulas and functions if you don't understand table notation. Let's try to calculate a column or something like that. If I were to say something like, frozen, I don't know, tax or something like that. Okay. And let's say that it's going to be 6% of the frozen column. Now, I think a lot of us here probably know how to do this. So let's go ahead and do it ourselves, but we're going to use table notation this time. So what I'm going to do is take equals. I'm going to take frozen. I'm going to use my arrows. You're going to see this @ sign here. What this @ sign means is it is just the frozen row for that row. Okay, so the frozen value for this row. @frozen just means the frozen value in this row, basically. Okay, so we're going to take that frozen, we're going to multiply it. Let's take 6% of that. Okay, so we get our data here. Okay, and this is how these notations work. So rather than using the notation of A1 through B766 or something like that, we are using what this data measures, right? We're really using more Excel more as like a programmer would, referring to things by their names rather than where they just happen to be in the workbook. Okay, so that's the first thing that we'll do here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. We'll see if Copilot could help us out with something like that. Another thing that is good to know, if I were to say something like average frozen, okay, so let's aggregate this column. I'm going to take the average function here. Okay, and I'm going to average out, I forget what this table is called. I think it's called table 1 right now. We're going to fix that in a second. So table 1, okay, we're going to take the average of frozen. So you're seeing that I'm not like pointing and clicking on that range. I'm actually just referring to it by name, and that will give us the answer. Copilot, again, if your data is in a table, Copilot will probably give you results in this kind of format back. So we're not looking at the column references anymore. We're actually looking at what the name of those columns, what the names of those tables are. Last but not least, to make things a little cleaner for both us and Copilot, it's never a bad idea to give all of your data entities proper names. That's going to make it more clear to you what those formulas represent. And it could even help AI understand, right, what is the context of your data, right? When you give things good names, when you label things well, it's more likely that you're going to get good results here. So let's call this table 1 instead. Let's call it something like wholesale customers. I'm going to make this one word separated by an underscore. Okay, can't put spaces in there, can't put dashes either. So you're pretty much stuck with underscores. So click OK. All right. So that's just the basic primer on tables. Again, a lot of stuff you need to know before you can even get into Copilot and before you're going to get the best results with Copilot. Okay, so let's check this out. The next thing, let's actually move in here to Copilot. I'm going to head up here. It's under home. Now, one thing I didn't do yet, and I'm surprised nobody has asked yet, is what's the availability of these products. Now, this is a paid premium feature. I think it's like 20 or 30 bucks a month for an individual. I believe it's 30 for an enterprise. I'm not an expert. I look at the docs when I have a question as well. And that's what I said here. So make sure you follow these pages. Look on the Microsoft website for the best product availability and roadmaps for the future information. Even though I'm an MVP, I'm not given any, extra information, at least that I can share in terms of roadmap, in terms of pricing and things like that. So go ahead and make sure you do your own research, get it from the horse's mouth as it were, and you can get it from these links. Advanced analysis with Copilot, with again, we might talk about in a little bit, is an advanced even on top of that feature. So it's available to insiders right now, which means that you need to be on a beta track to do that. So if you don't see any of these tools today, it probably has to do with product availability and or licensing. Only so much I can do on an open free webinar like this. I can't share my screen with you, or you can't share your screen. I can't see your product details or things like that. So I'll do my best, but it's probably going to be down to one of these features that you don't have. Okay, so that being said, hopefully some of you have Copilot up here on the home ribbon. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Copilot. And we're going to see the first stop here is that we need to turn on autosave. We also need to upload this to OneDrive. So your data does need to be uploaded to the OneDrive or SharePoint location associated with your Copilot account. Let's go ahead and turn that on. I'm going to go ahead and just upload this to my OneDrive here. Okay, so you're going to see we get a few different buckets of categories of ideas here. Our prompt box is down here. We could start typing. And one thing that's good to know is that this is an offshoot of the Copilot LLM, which is an offshoot of the GPT LM, which was trained on a whole lot of data, and it was not just Excel data. So if you wanted to say, what is the capital of Canada or something like that, I don't know if you have anybody from Canada on the line today, but I don't have to ask you what the capital is. I could just see what Copilot tells me. And again, we all have heard about things like hallucinations and improper results and things like that. But it has been trained on a lot of things. So if you need quick help in a pinch, it doesn't even have to be Excel related. How many cups are in a quart or something like that, or converting from one unit to another. I think Excel has a lot of those unit functions built in, but you can get help with basic stuff like that. But that's probably not what we're here for. This isn't really the best, most conducive place to, use an LLM for general purpose topics. There's Microsoft 365, which would let you do that. Microsoft 365 Copilot would actually let you leverage other files, not just this table. This is one thing with Copilot in Excel. As of right now, Copilot in Excel is really just built to work with this specific table. It could do a little bit working between tables, but really it's meant to just help you analyze this table and this table only. So if you're looking for bigger picture ideas, what would be the best KPI to use, or what tool should I use? What function should I use? Help me build a macro that's going to do X, Y, and Z. Those kinds of big picture things, probably Microsoft 365 Copilot is going to be your better solution for. If we have time, we might look for it. Otherwise, you can check those resources. That information will be there for you. So these are really the main buckets of things that Copilot is going to help us do here. Create formulas. We'll do that in a second. Understand. You're going to say summarizing using pivot tables or charts. So that's a third thing that I would say, and I actually shared this on LinkedIn this morning. 3 things you absolutely need to know to really even begin using Copilot in Excel, I would say, are tables, pivot tables, and Power Query. If you don't have those 3 down, I would say it's not really worth trying to do anything with Copilot. All right, so we're going to understand our data, use pivot tables and charts. Advanced analysis of Python. Okay, that would be the 4th honorable mention. Understanding a little bit of Python, descriptive analytics, predictive analytics would be another next step. Conditional formatting, and then asking Copilot, just getting some help. And this is another good one that, Copilot is intelligent about itself, right? So, and we might look at this later, but if I wanted to know what are the assumptions of a linear regression, right? And how would I run one in Excel. Now, we're not going to do it right now with this data, but we will see that if you are building a model or a report, you will get some basic information, right? Here are the assumptions. Go to the analysis tool pack, do this, do that. This could even help you with something like, how would I read JSON into Excel? I had that asked in a training session the other day. I knew the answer was Power Query, and you'll see, right? Go to data from file. So all sorts of stuff you can do here, but we're going to focus right now on just creating a couple of basic formulas. You'll see down here, there's this show data insights. Let's go ahead and click this one. This will provide some preliminary data profiling and exploration on the data. Now, one good thing to know with Copilot is, like other LLMs, this is kind of unpredictable in terms of the output that you're going to get. I might run a prompt and get something completely different than you. Okay, so that's just part of the game. And this is really important why you really still need to have control over your data. You need to be able to customize and iterate and be agile with the results you got, because we're going to see some of the results aren't what we want. Okay, so we still need to take hands-on action to get the data and the analyses and the results that we want. So right now it says we analyze fresh by region. Okay, let's add this to a new sheet, the sum of fresh products by region. Okay, this seems fine to me. I don't know if that's exactly what I wanted, but for some reason, Copilot thought that was the information that I needed. You'll see this does get inserted as a pivot chart. Okay, so if you wanted to flip the axes here, or change this into a pie chart, you could try to get help with that with Copilot. Although sometimes I find it's just as easy, if you know Excel in and out, as you should if you're using Copilot, to just do it yourself. Okay. So let's head back to the sheet here. We're going to go back to the data. Okay. And whoops, not that. I wanted to go back to the worksheet. Okay. So we're back in our data, and let's try to get help with a formula here. Now, if you bucket exactly what you want in one of these categories, that can help just kind of keep things tidy and really narrow down exactly what you're trying to get help with from Copilot. So in this example, we're getting help with a formula. Okay. I think it's going to try to suggest a formula for us. It's actually suggesting a total sales column. We're going to look at a better way to do it than here right now. What I'm going to ask is create a column that gives me 7% of grocery sales and call it grocery tax. We'll see what we get here. You will see right here, right, that we do have that table notation. So like I talked about, be familiar with what that is, with what that kind of notation is. Again, we get that notation here. Let's go ahead and actually insert that column into the data. You'll see that that data set, or that column, gets added, and we are using that table notation. What are total sales for frozen? Let's see what happens here. I'm going to assume, based on my experience with Copilot, that we are going to get a pivot table result here. And again, that is indeed what we get. We can add it to a new sheet. We're free to manipulate this if we want. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the data. Okay, so those are the basics. And again, conditional formatting or something, maybe let's say sort this data by channel, and then region. And we could even do like ascending and then region descending. Now, if you knew Excel, this might honestly be faster just to do it manually. Okay, but there is a microphone feature here, so you could actually talk to Excel, and I find that that can be kind of fast, right? If you're trying to do something on the fly, maybe you're multitasking. Not that we ever do that, right? You could turn on your microphone, talk to Copilot, get those results. It does take a bit of a second to actually get them sorted, but it will work eventually. So there are some use cases for this, even for more advanced Excel users. I'm going to do one more thing before we get into some more intermediate kind of steps here. And what I'm going to do is, let's say, shade all rows with fresh sales greater than 10,000 as green. Okay, so this will let us do conditional formatting. It does take a second here. We have our rule here. Okay, fine. Let's apply this. And this is kind of cool, honestly. It does by default, it shades the entire row. I feel like that's usually often the case when you do conditional formatting. Traditionally, it's only going to highlight that one column, and it's a little bit tricky to actually make that rule apply out to the whole data set across the entire row. So this does it by default. So, I'm not going to hate that. That's kind of cool. So those are your basic things, right? If we look back here, at our main buckets here, right? Get some basic insights on analyses. Honestly, I think that Python is a better fit for that anyway. If you know how to create pivot tables and charts on your own, I'm not sure how helpful this is. I feel like a lot of the charts are pretty basic right now. It's not like it's going to tell you to, create like a jitter plot or a pair plot or something more advanced, right? It'll probably give you a pie chart or a bar chart or a line chart or something like that. More so a line chart than a pie chart, really. So again, it just depends on what you're trying to do. So these are really the main use cases right here. So now let's dive into this a little bit deeper. And there's a real like fatal flaw in this data set. Okay. And it's going to be, let's say, what are total sales by region? So we're going to ask this. It's going to do its thing here. Okay. Add to new sheet. That's fine with me. Okay. All right. So we get this pivot table, and that's fine. And we get total sales by region. It's split out by department. That's not exactly what I wanted. I just wanted total sales. Why didn't we get it here? Now, we all think that AI is magical and can do everything and yada yada, but really, it's not smart enough to even know. Based on our data, it's getting smarter. Maybe it'll get to a point where it just assumes this is what you're trying to do. But right now, Copilot still isn't smart enough to know these are all sales. Okay. Right now, Copilot assumes milk and grocery sales are apples and oranges. They're not to be aggregated, and it's comparing them. And that's why we're putting each of these sales in its own different category. Okay. So that's really not what we want. And what we're going to do to fix that is reshape this data set. So I'm going to put a link in the chat, and I'm going to move over that in a second. And I hope that this really calls out, all the steps that you really need to take with your data before you should even be trying to use Copilot. And this is right here. So this is a Microsoft support page. Okay, format data for Copilot in Excel. To use your Copilot data, it needs to be a table or a range. Okay, format data as a table, et cetera, et cetera. Keep data as a range. Now, I think that this applies whether your data is in a table or a range, but it still drives home the point here. If you want to keep your data in a range, you need to have all these things met. You need a header row. The headers are on your columns, right? Your headers are unique. You don't have blank headers. Your data is consistently formatted. You don't have subtotals. There are no empty rows. There are no more shells. So there are a lot of steps, right? And I think a lot of reports in Excel, you see things like this happening. Okay. And I don't think I actually put that in the chat yet. Okay. Let me hit enter. Now you have it there. Okay. So these are all things to really get the best results from Copilot. I would say that nested data sets or pivoted data sets are another classic example of where things can go wrong here. And that's what we have. I guess that would count as data formatted consistently. So this isn't really consistent because these are all sales. Right now, Copilot thinks these are apples and oranges. So we got to go ahead into Power Query and make that fix. All right, so let's head up here. If you've never used Power Query before, buckle your seatbelts. You can definitely check out my book, Modern Data Analytics in Excel, and that'll get you a whole lot of Power Query. Okay, we're going to do this. There's no coding required. You're just going to point and click. If you missed a step, you can check out the recording, or we're doing pretty good on time. So let's go to from table / range. Okay, so we have our data. This is in a new Power Query editor. What I want to do, again, as we talked about, we're going to reshape this data set so that there's one sales column, there's one department column. Having these all in separate columns is really confusing Copilot as to how this data works. So let's hit Control. Let's click on Region. Okay, and I'm going to right click. I am going to unpivot other columns. Now, why unpivot other columns? Because it's faster for one thing. It's also a little more efficient, but I think the being faster part is what matters right now. So again, channel, control, right click, unpivot other columns. Our data is in a different shape now. Okay, let's again, names, make sure things are named, something that makes sense. Let's call that department. and let's call that sales. Okay, so again, this is being recorded. You can check it out. You can check out my book. I use this example as well. Let's close and load this thing. You can click close and load. I have my settings set up a little bit differently here, so I'm just going to make sure it's loaded to a table. We don't need it in the data model. We do want it in a new worksheet. So let's go ahead and insert that. So we just reshaped our data set really quickly here. Okay, I'm going to go back to Copilot so I can just toggle right over here. There's this little button. Okay, and if I scroll up to the top here, I'm going to go ahead and there should be a button. I thought there would be, yeah, chat history. So let's get our chat. We're going to select a new chat. Okay, we're going to just start with a blank slate here. New data set, new slate, new set of prompts. What are total sales by region? Let's ask our question here. Okay, so we get a chart this time. Now we get exactly what we wanted. Okay, so there it is. It's not broken down by department anymore. Okay, it's, it wouldn't have been that hard to have modified our data over here and found that total. And I think Copilot even suggested to add a total sales column. I would advise against doing that, because then you're kind of like double stating your data in your data set. It's just going to get messy when it comes time to try to report on that. Okay, so that is the basics of Copilot. We have a few more minutes here, so what I'm going to do is head over to the advanced analysis data set. Let's go to this advanced analysis demos here, and we're going to walk through the more advanced stuff. Okay. And again, if there is a specific use case from that PDF that I shared, please feel free to ask that. But I'm going to go over to this reviews data set and just show you how powerful this is to have Python and Copilot and Excel joining forces here. Let's head to Copilot. So this is, I think it's like 50,000 movie reviews. And we are going to get generative AI help and Python help to make some sense of this. So if you have like product reviews, employee feedback, things like that, again, this is a somewhat larger data set. So this is going to take a second to spin up and comb through the data. So with that little gap here, I think that's a good time. Let me share a couple of things here. Okay, so the first thing is thank you again for tuning in. I would really appreciate if you could. So as you've seen, I don't ask for like any money. There's no tip. There's no donation. I'm not selling you a course, right? I don't know if you've been to webinars. A lot of people, it's basically just a hook to their sales course, right? I'm not selling anything. All I want is reviews. This helps me a lot. It lets other customers know that I'm a reliable source of information, that I share a lot with the community, that my training sessions make sense to people. So if you see fit and you would like to communicate that with the outside world, would really appreciate your feedback. Again, that's all I want. I don't ask for any tips, donations. There's no, in the next, if you buy now, in the next 24 hours, I'm going to give you this, right? No, I don't do that. It's gimmicky to me. I just want people to know that I'm a reliable source of information. That's all I ask for. So that's the first thing. Okay, let's see if this is still working. Okay, it's not, but let me share one more thing. So please do that, and I will send that out in the email recap as well. Second information here is make sure you tune in for others. I'll put this in the chat too. So I have a whole lot more of these. And I believe there's actually a box in that feedback form as well. If you want to let me know what else you would like to see. So please sign up for as many as you can. These are all recorded, so I'll send them out if you can't make it. So we're going to talk more about Power Query, Power Automate, Power Query, You can read them all. I have these scheduled out until like April. I have a lot of travel coming up, so I can't do these as often as I want. But for the weeks that I'm here, I try to schedule one. And they're recorded and they're free. So please sign up for as many. I hope they can help you get the most out of Excel for modern data analytics. All right. So with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's do one more step here on advanced analysis here. So I'm going to go to this last step. It says advanced analysis. Okay, we're going to get deeper analysis results using Python. Okay, It's going to create a new sheet. It's going to automatically write and insert Python. It's going to answer your prompt with multiple messages. Fair enough. Okay, let's start the advanced analysis. Now, this is a little bit unpredictable as well, like these other Copilot tools. Sometimes when I run this, we'll get like a complete data analysis exploration. Other times it'll pretty much just read in the data. Where you're going to see over here is that we do have Python code being written and read in Excel. If you've not worked with Python and Excel, I have some sessions coming up. I'm trying to work on some other resources for it too. So you'll see that it's taking a while. This is a larger data set. Okay, so our data set is available as an object, specifically a data frame in Excel. Okay, and now it's saying to get analyses. It's even suggesting things that we might want to do, right? We might want to compare the sentiments, the distributions, right? So I'm going to ask something like, what are the most popular words in negative versus positive reviews? Please visualize. Asking for a visualization is always a good idea. That way, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to get a result that makes sense to you and to end users and things like that. So I've just found that to be a useful prompt idea when it comes to working with Copilot in Excel. Okay, so it's going to take a while. Again, like we said, this is a somewhat larger data set. It's even going to give us the steps here. Now, I've even seen this try to process your data, and if it encounters an error in that Python code, it will iterate and come to a solution to get Python code that works, and then run that Python code. So this is going to take a little bit here. Again, I would definitely encourage you to know the basics of Python, know the basics of text mining, right? I don't think it's the best idea to just come into this with no prior knowledge of these topics. But for those of you who have studied this stuff and would just like a safe place or an easy place to work on it, what we see right here is that a timeout error occurred. So basically, because this is a bigger data set, it's just taking a little bit more time to process this data and get it to run here. So we'll see if we can get it to work. If not, I do have in that resource package, and let me pull that up here quickly. Okay, so that's down here. Okay, where's the text one? It is right here. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the chat. And let's open that. Okay, so let's go back here and see if it actually ran. Okay, it's still doing its thing. It's still timing out. I think there's a way to override a timeout error and actually get more time to execute the code. But I'm gonna go ahead and just go. I'm assuming because I'm sharing and recording and everything that there are probably fewer resources available. That could not be true, but anyway, this is the blog post on this topic. So if you were to actually run this analysis, you would get a chart, right? And you would see what are the top 15 words. Okay, you get some nice bar charts. You could get a word cloud. I'm not a big fan of word clouds. I just find them a little messy and hard to interpret. I think it's better just to pick the top words and put it into a bar chart. So now I know exactly how many times each word is occurring. And there's so many words in here that I can't even read anyway. So what's the point of putting them in the plot, in my opinion? Anyway, we could even do something more advanced if we wanted to create a predictive model, right? Predict the sentiment given some reviews, build a model like that. And we could do that here, use logistic regression. If you're not familiar, that's okay. Because what you could even do is ask Copilot to explain logistic regression to you. So that's definitely a takeaway here. Don't be afraid to kind of play devil's advocate with Copilot. It's better if you know a little bit coming in, but if you're not an expert, if you know enough to have the intuition to be able to call Copilot's bluff and play devil's advocate, that's a great place to be in, because then you're able to ask, what are the assumptions? Did you meet these assumptions? What other models might we have used? Things like that. So again, very intelligent tool. And what's so cool about this, and unfortunately, I should probably pick a smaller data set for these live demos because it looks like reading timeouts, but really, really cool that, we're able to generate. Let's do something more simple here. Let's see, run descriptive statistics, include 10th median, 90th percentile. So I'm trying to be a little bit, okay, I really spelled percentile wrong. I was up very late last night training some Asia Pacific clients, so I think my brain's a couple minutes behind. I do know how to spell percentile. It's LE at the end. So anyway, we'll see if this runs. And okay, there we go. Okay, we're still getting a timeout. That's really annoying. Okay, I'll have to pick a smaller data set for the future. But anyway, I hope you get the idea. We're basically just at about a time. Let me go to the resources here. Again, I want to thank everybody for your time and attention today. Didn't really get a lot of notes in the chat, but I'm assuming it just means you're all just taking it in, which is fine with me too. Biggest resources I have to share here is, again, free. So if you go to LinkedIn Learning, and I will put this in the notes as well, you can take this course 100% free, courtesy of Microsoft, until the end of next year. This is an hour-and-a-half long course right now. It's going to go through all of the use cases and more that we went through today. Okay, so make sure you check that out. It's also got some challenges, opportunity to practice, to really make this stuff your own. So check that out if you want more. Okay, Modern Data Analytics in Excel is my book. You can check that one out. This one isn't free, but you can actually get it for free with a preview from the publisher's website. So if you want to get like a 10-day trial, you can do it that way. Or, there are these things called libraries still that often will stock it, and you can even ask your library to order a copy. So pretty much everything you get today is free. Okay, you can get a copy of this book for free if you want. You can take this course for free if you want. Okay, and the resources are right there too. Thanks again. Please connect on LinkedIn if we've not before. I'm just going to leave it on this feedback form. If you want to do that before you leave, you're certainly welcome to. If you want to get a few minutes of your time back, that's fine too. I'll take any last questions as well. Let me put this in the chat, and all this stuff will go out to you later today. So appreciate it. Thank you, Hannah. Yep, please let me know, everybody, if I can answer anything else. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and I'll post this stuff later today.